Money Mondays, here live, Disrupt TV Studios, Houston, Texas.
In the middle of a tropical storm, not a hurricane?
It's not a hurricane. It's not a hurricane, all right? We can all still come to the office, but we're going to have a little bit of rain over the next couple days.
It's only like 2 days of rain, so
yeah.
It's not too bad.
It's not as bad as we've seen, right? Being here for 20-something years, right? I guess you kind of get used to hurricanes.
No, absolutely. So how's everyone doing?
Good, man. Good weekend. Worked most of it, but I did get to relax a little bit.
So for those tuning in, Money Mondays, we do this every Monday, 3:30 Central.
Yep.
We pick a topic. We welcome anyone else's topic. So if you have a topic you want to talk about, let us know. And this week we're talking about how to build your multifamily syndication team.
Yep.
But really, we'll do a Q&A at the end, and you guys feel free to ask anything you want. We will talk about just about anything. We're pretty much open books. I'm not going to make a joke about Ben's hair, but just by saying I'm not going to make a joke about Ben's hair, I just made a joke about Ben's hair. But we'll talk about anything you guys want to talk about. So definitely feel free.
No, we want it to be interactive, right? We're some of these, have kind of come in, in terms of the topics. Some of them we're just kind of, picking out of the air. This is one that I'm pretty passionate about because I think this is important. Right. The one thing that kind of, I guess, can derail somebody from doing good deals, doing enough deals, actually building up a real estate firm is that they try to do it all on their own, right? Because I think a lot of people, you start off, you're on your own. Maybe you do it with a spouse, especially if you get into single family. You're never going to have enough, volume to really build out a team, so to speak, on the single family side. Absolutely. But it's almost mandatory to do it on the commercial side, especially on the multifamily side. Too many components, too many moving pieces, too much work. So I always tell people after about a deal or two, you'll have the guy that's going to try to do his own thing, take the promo, the whole entire, 100 yards, and he might be able to do that on one or two deals. After that, he's going to have to start partnering with people because he's going to run out of one of two things: money or time. Or he's just going to run out of the experience that he has, right? He might come across an issue that's just going to torpedo, a deal or a portfolio that he has. So this is why this is important. We're going to kind of get into the components of how to build your multifamily syndication.
Yeah, and maybe to give some background too, right? Ben and I mean, we've been successful because we put together teams, right? Really, I like to say syndication is just it's project management on steroids. So how do you keep all the trains moving and keep all of the people in your team moving forward?
Yep.
And so for those, a lot of times we get asked, basically how can people get started in multifamily? The thing we always tell everyone: invest with someone or multiple people's deal. Kind of see what you like, what you don't like, right? Learn the good and the bad. But then that next step up from there is figure out how to be part of a team, right? How can you add value to someone, right? Whether it's the earnest money deposits, whether it's other aspects. And so, that's kind of the best way. Now, I know we're going to talk a little bit more about the immediate team, but also if you're a passive investor and you happen to fit one of these roles, right? I mean, there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be involved. And so definitely something to think about.
Let's go there a little bit, and then we can kind of huddle up to the kind of third-party vendor roles, right? So let's talk about roles within a partnership or the GP, right? And Ferris touched on one, putting up the earnest money. People are like, oh, $10 million deal, 1 or 2% down, right? How much is that, right? That's $100,000 to $200,000. Not everybody has that liquid in their bank account, right? Or if they do, that might be the only liquidity that they have.
We don't have a couple $1 million sitting behind these TVs.
Unfortunately not.
Ready for our next deal?
Unfortunately not, right? But hey, guess what? Somebody out there might. So maybe you have a deal and they have the earnest money. Guess what? That sounds like the formings of a partnership, right? But earnest money, somebody could be a KP, which is a key principal. They could sign on the loan. Maybe you have a $10 million deal, right? And you're not worth $10 million. And what we've talked about in the past, right? The way that these loans are approved, right? You have to have net worth and liquidity amongst the whole entire team. The net worth has to equal the loan amount, and the liquidity, usually depending on the lender, is about 10% of the loan amount, right? So on a $10 million deal, net worth needs to be $10 million, liquidity needs to be $1 million. Somebody stepping in there on their own, probably, for the most part, isn't gonna start off with those types of net worth and liquidity spots, right? So that's another important piece, is being a KP on a deal, right? Finding a deal too, right?
Finding a deal, boots on the ground.
Yeah, being somebody like, we got brought in.
Construction management.
Yeah, so we've been brought in on deals, and we've had people approach us because we're here in Houston, right? And we've also partnered with people that have been in other locations that we weren't, right? Because that, not only to the lender, but to your investors, they love to see that, right? Because if there's an issue, we ultimately always invest within a 2-3 hour, drive or a 2 or 3 hour plane ride, right?
Yeah.
Because we want to get out there the next day if we ever need to. But it's always nice to have somebody in the same city if you can, right? Yeah. So boots on the ground is important. What else? What am I missing?
No, construction management is a good example.
Oh, that's huge.
Right? That's the one. We've had a partner that we brought in that helped with the construction management. It made our lives easier. It added value to them. They got their feet wet, probably more than they wanted to, and saw what it's about.
Thanks, Oliver.
Yeah, thanks, Oliver. And it's an important part of the thing. And so really, multifamily syndication is about putting together a team, getting something bigger, better, harder done together, right? And so that's kind of on the partnership team.
That's
but maybe let's
team.
move over to the actual the core transactional team. Maybe is the that's
a good way to
That's what I do, man. I pick the good
it.
names, right?
So
Ben would have called it like the A team or something,
Well, that's actually kind of.
But then that means our partners are the B team, and that's not true either. So
no, that's true. That's true. So these are the folks that are going to help you shepherd the deal to closing, right? Or they might be your partner after the fact. So we'll kind of take it one by one. So let's start off with, and these are in no particular order. They're all equally important, right? So I don't want anybody to feel like, oh, one's more important than the other. So CPA, right? Everybody knows what that is. You have to get your tax returns done every year, folks, right? You have to have K1s. If you're doing a syndication, those are all people that are a part of a partnership. They're entitled to a K1. And when you start multiplying that by, 5,
what is 6, a K1, Ben? For those that don't know.
K1 is their share of either the loss or the profit, right, of the deal, and it's a form, right, as being part of a partnership, that you then have your individual CPA file along with your tax return, and that will go against or for your own personal finances.
Good answer. Not the answer I was looking for, but good answer.
Ouch.
I was just looking. I was looking more generically. That's all. So
what do you got?
K1, regardless if you're in multifamily or something else, K1 is the legal tax form that you get whenever you own, some interest in an entity.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Shares,
that's what you get from the IRS. You don't get it from the IRS. You get it from your accountant. But that's essentially what you're filing with the IRS, right? So that's what a K1 is. And as Ben mentioned, in multifamily, that's where you pass through losses or you pass through profits. So
yeah, capital gains, right? And it's all based on your ownership percentage, right? So the CPA keeps on, and then they'll help with cost segregation and how that plays into the tax return, right? Mm-hmm. They're an integral part of maximizing the tax benefits that is commercial real estate.
For those that don't know, whenever you do cost segregation study, you pay a third party. They essentially give you a report. You then give that to your CPA. Your CPA is the person that figures out how to distribute that across
they need to interpret the report, right? Because obviously cost seg, and we use Madison Specs for people that that want to recommend.
Just one person on our team.
One person.
Which is a company that's on our team. We're talking about teams.
Yeah. So I was getting around to them. We don't even have them.
That's why I mentioned it.
All right. So we'll get around to title here as well, but. So the CPA will obviously take that cost segregation report and interpret it. It looks like Chinese to me, but they're able to interpret that, and then
it's numbers, but it really does.
It's kind of crazy, right? But they're able to spread that across the partnership, and everybody gets their pro rata share. So that's pretty important, right? To have a CPA. So talk to us about property management, right?
It's property management. That is your best friend or your worst enemy, depending on how you look at it, right? I mean,
and we've had some pretty bad enemies in the past.
We've had some bad property management companies in the past. We've had some better ones. We ultimately ended up starting our own property management company just to kind of get the level of attention and, really modernize that business. And we've since started third-party management, right? So that's been phenomenal. But
so disrupt management, right?
Disrupt management. So if anyone's interested, let us know. But really, property management is the people that are running the day-to-day operations, right? They're the people that are hiring and firing the on-site staff. They're the people that are setting up the systems, the processes of what happens whenever a payment comes in. What happens whenever someone has a work order? What happens whenever someone slips and falls? What happens when anything, kind of all of the things that need to happen operationally at the property, right? Which is different than asset management. I know we don't really have asset management on here, but asset management is more about the role that essentially represents the ownership group, right? And saying, okay, is the business plan getting implemented or not? And what do we need to do to kind of push it along? Or do we need to rethink that business plan? And so property management is very much, the people that you are working with pretty much daily, during the hold of that asset.
I always kind of describe it like this, folks, right? The asset manager develops the plan, the property management implements, right? They are the boots on the ground and then the asset manager is there to fine tune and manage the property management company, right? So, like Ferris said, can be your worst enemy or they can be your best friend, right? But they do everything from collect rents to pay the note. So, attorneys.
Before we go on attorneys, for those of you just tuning in, Money Mondays, we do this every Monday, 3:30 Central. We are talking about how to build your multifamily syndication team this week, but we talk about anything and everything. So if anyone has any suggestions, let us know. We're happy to kind of talk about them in future episodes. But on top of that too, at the end of this, we're going to do open Q&A. You guys can ask anything you want to ask. Don't hesitate. You can ask us about the tropical storm outside. You can ask us about our lovely beards, whatever you guys want to talk about. So it does not have to be about the topic we're talking about today.
No, we talk about anything real estate and being an entrepreneur, right? So.
My beard is not real estate or entrepreneur, but we'll let that slide.
Well, okay, well, let's just slide on that one, buddy. All right, so talk to us about attorneys, right? So we've got not only transactional attorneys, because I think we've got two different attorneys that we want to talk about, but you also have your SEC attorney.
Yeah, so maybe to kind of dig into that. So as Ben mentioned, there's really two sides to the legal aspect in terms of, really, I guess there's also maybe even three, so I'll get to the third one. But during the acquisitions, there's two sides. There is the lawyer that is making sure you are staying compliant within the rules of the SEC.
Yes.
All right, so that's what you typically call an SEC attorney. Separately, you have a transactional attorney who is helping with the transaction. That is the person that's working through the paperwork with the seller in terms of what are we agreeing to, or dealing with closing, the title, all of those types. Yeah, the PSA is what I meant earlier, right? Helping with the transaction, maybe even putting together your LOI. So that's the transactional attorneys. Now, that said, right, for us, I think every time it's always been the same person, right? Our SEC attorney also can do the transactional side. And some people do that, some people don't, right? We find it nice, and we do have recommendations if you guys need them. But that's kind of the two different aspects of that side. Now, the third attorney that I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit is really, that attorney that you use once you have that deal, right? What happens if a tenant sues, right? So, there is a third, just kind of almost like your, attorney
that's a litigator.
Litigator, someone that you can go to for advice.
If you got to go to court or you're getting sued, and let's just be honest, folks, you can do everything, you can do all the right things, right? But you have a slip and fall at your property, and you have one of these ambulance chasers that wants to go after somebody that has money, they're going to try to come after the ownership, right?
But
and that's why you have insurance.
Yeah, but actually on that note, this is important because I think not a lot of people realize this, as I found out last week. So if you have a slip and fall, don't send that to your attorney. While you could send it to your attorney, that's what the insurance does. Yes. They have attorney teams that are dedicated to that. Right? Save yourself the money of your attorney. All you have to do is go tell your insurance, this is what we just got noticed about. This person is claiming a slip and fall. You hand it off to them. You tell your staff not to respond to anything. Pass it through to the legal and call it a day. So, pro tip: if anyone saves $1,000 from that, let me know. You guys will thank me in a couple months.
There you go. How many slip and falls we got going on here? $1,000?
It's related to a story from last week where someone was going to ask their attorney. I'm like, dude.
No, I agree. Yeah, and stuff like that. That was probably a bad example on my side, but you guys get the point, right?
So that's what the attorneys do, right? So kind of keep going. So I know we're going to run short on time.
You want to make sure you got real estate brokers, right?
Real estate brokers.
Who are the people that are going to buy and are going to help with the buy and sale of the properties, right? So real estate brokers, they call them brokers, really they're agents, folks, right? But in commercial real estate, they always seem to call everybody's a broker, right?
Yeah,
even though technically they're not,
too loose.
right? They're all agents, and then there's usually a broker above them. But these are the folks that are going to be doing 95 to probably 98% of the deals, even if they're off market, right? There's not a lot of direct to seller transactions when you're talking about big multifamily syndication deals. Because you want to know why? The sellers know that they're going to get better deal, better terms if they go through a broker, because the broker's job is to know all the buyers and the sellers in that area, right? Who's gonna be the best person to buy this deal?
Yeah, I like to say it'd be short-sighted to try to save a few bucks and not use a broker.
Yeah, right. And they don't want to pay their fee, which for people's knowledge, right? It can be it's probably anywhere from 1% to 2%, right, of the purchase price. So and it's usually paid by the seller. So loan broker, right? Commercial, a commercial loan broker, a commercial mortgage broker is another way to describe that. Right? And they're an invaluable part of your team, right? Now, can you go directly to a lender? Yeah, of course, but we've been burned doing that, right? You don't have somebody that's working on your behalf. It's ultimately still, the lender against you and your team, right? And so there's not that advocate in the middle that's, making sure that the deal is going in the right direction. You're getting the loan amount that you're promised. You're getting the interest rate that you're promised. You're getting, all the terms that you were promised. right? Ultimately, quick story for me, I was 3 days out from closing, and the lender, this was out using a mortgage broker because I was, kind of uneducated when it comes to that. Dumb and naive in my career. And they changed the whole deal on us. They whacked $500,000 in proceeds. We went from 3 years of IO to 1 year. You can imagine what, that's going to fundamentally change the deal. So what do, right? Luckily, we had some additional money that we had raised, and we were able to kind of get it across the finish line. But, you have to make sure that all your investors are on board for that specific deal at that point, right? Because it changed. And so it put us in a really tight spot. So all the more reason to have a commercial mortgage broker that's going to be on your behalf to make sure that the deal gets done. It gets done with the right loan lender. So insurance broker, right? Same thing. You want somebody that's there. Yes, you can go. I know there's Allstate guys and State Farm folks, right? But when we're talking about multifamily, there's only a couple people in the industry that I trust.
Yep.
And so Dan Kaderka, Strategic Insurance Group, right? And loan broker, Anton Matley, Peak Financing. These guys are rock stars, been in the business 20, 30 years. They've done hundreds of transactions. They know how to get a deal done, right? And so on the insurance side, Dan is going to get you the best rate, right? And he's going to make sure that you're not underinsured too, right? People are going to try to save a little bit. Well, can we just boost up that deductible a little bit, to try to save a few bucks? But man, when you have that claim, if you're underinsured or you goosed up that deductible to try to keep your rate down, you are going to get hosed. I mean, we won't name any names, but we heard about a guy, recently because of one of the hurricanes that came through that his deductible was per building versus on a property level. Yep. And it's going to cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so you have to be very, very careful. So that's why having an insurance broker, they'll lead you through all the intricacies that go into that and get you the right deal. So let's talk about contractors.
So before we do that, Money Mondays, do this every Monday, 3:30 Central.
Yep.
If anyone has any questions, go ahead and leave it in the comments. We will answer them live here on Money Mondays. It does not have to be about our topic. We talk about all sorts of different topics. This week we're talking about your team and multifamily syndication, but you can ask us anything you want. So with that said,
we're going to start getting some crazy questions. You keep
I'll
telling
keep
people
tossing
that
it out
there's
there,
going to
but-
be somebody that's just going to throw us a total curveball, and you're going to have to answer it.
Yeah, so contractors, so to the important point. We'll let Ben answer the really hard ones. So contractors really an important part of your team, right? A lot of these deals, you're basically, people will always ask, why is the guy selling it, if it's such a good deal, right? Well, ultimately, these deals are cyclical, right?
Yep.
You have to typically ingest money in a deal. You own and operate it for several years. Then at the end of it, right, it's kind of reached the end of its life without needing to inject more money into it, right? And so then you either need to recapitalize the deal, put money back into it, or you sell, right? And so that said, what does that mean? That means that most deals that are being bought are deals that probably need a little bit of TLC, right? And so we're doing a value add component, which means we can go in, make improvements, and usually we can do interior improvements and we can push the rents. That's what allows us to get our cash flow. And so that's a long-winded way to say that typically you need a contractor, right? So it's an important part of the team, and having the right contractor makes all the difference, right? They are doing, and again, your deal might be different, but usually in our deals they're doing anywhere from $600,000 to $2 million of rehab on these deals, right?
Yep.
And so having a trusted person that can do quality work in a quality time without kind of, making up excuses and, cheating you is actually really important. So
No, and they've got float, folks, right? Yes, maybe you can get a cheaper general contractor if you go with some local guy that might be a little bit smaller. But guess what? They're probably going to be hitting you up on a Friday because they got to cover payroll, right? And the way that these deals are done, it's on a draw system, right? And we don't have control over the lender, right? We can push, we can prod, we can threaten, we can make noise, but ultimately there has been times when we've waited 3 or 4 months to get a draw in from our lenders. So you need to have a general contractor that can float that until they get paid and they understand how that works. We've also had guys that did great work, they just didn't understand the draw part of the process, right? And they get all upset with us, and we're like, hey man, we want to pay you. We've got the money, it's just an escrow, right? So you need to have the right general contractor. That's important, right? So we talked about partners earlier, so we won't touch on that, but investors, right? Who are our biggest partners in the deal, right? Our LPs, our members, whatever you want to call them, right? The folks that come up with the equity to get into the deal alongside us, right? And so that's an important part, and obviously you can choose your investors wisely as well, right? So
we continue to do deals because our investors continue to have faith in us, and that's
and,
important.
and we've had 3 full cycle deals. We're going to have a 4th here in the next couple months, right? Where we have far exceeded, the returns that we projected to our investors, right? So, but that in itself, is going to create some referrals and some references over to some other good folks. And so, we're always looking for good investors to partner with us on these deals. So I think, the last but not least, because we don't have it up on the slides, so I almost forgot about it, is title. Right,
Way to give Madison a shout out.
Yeah, we got Josh Benparat, Madison Title, Sam. Those guys are good folks. They've taken care of us on multiple deals. They do a good job, and so you need to have a good title company. And ask me offline why you need a good title company. Because once again, it's just like insurance. Until you need it, you never know how important it really truly is, right? Mm-hmm. So. We got a question here: how to identify and vet the right team members, right? I think I ultimately always go back to ask around. What are other people, who are other people using? What was your experience, right? And, last but not least is the fee structure, right? I always look for, are they going to do a good job? Are they a good person? Are they ethical? And are they going to help me, to get to my goal, right? And then if I have to pay them a fee, it is what it is, right? Because ultimately we're here to grow and to win and, but if somebody that I trust says, hey, this is a good person, I'm at least going to give them a fair shot.
Referrals is, this business is a reputation business.
Yeah, because if you just try to Google something, yes, maybe you'll get lucky, but at the end of the day, right, you need to go to the people that are doing deals, and that's who we partner with, is the people that are dedicated to commercial real estate and to multifamily.
Absolutely.
Right? So I know that was kind of long, a little bit longer than some of
went through all the team, but let's kind of go through some things. So for those tuning in, Money Mondays, we do this every Monday through 30 Central. We talk about a variety of different topics. This week we're talking about your team. But at the end of this, we do open Q&A. So if you guys have any recommendations of topics you want to talk about in the future, let us know. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them in. So we'll go through them now. So let's see. So Ronnie says, what's up, guys? No plaid today. Nope. You've made us both paranoid on Mondays.
No, I was literally going to put on a plaid shirt, man. I'm like, man, Ronnie's going to bust my chops, dude. So, no, I look forward to seeing you on Thursday, man.
But Thursday we grab dinner.
Yeah,
you could get plaid.
I will wear plaid just for you, buddy.
He's gonna wear his plaid pants and shirt. Let's see. Ramil says, hi Ben Ferris. Is it common for operators to accept aspiring operators like myself to work for them via sweat equity to gain experience?
Yes.
Yeah, making calls, shout out to GP, etc. Yes, figure out a way to add value. Right?
Yes.
I think on a previous one of these, we did go through all the ways to get involved, and I think you should kind of give that a good watch to understand the different things that can be done. But it's ultimately find a way to add value.
Yep.
Give that to people, even us. We will partner with people, right? If you find a deal, bring it to us. We're happy to partner. If there's other aspects of the GP that we need help with, we're happy to kind of make that happen. So, it is actually more common than you think because these deals are team sports.
Yes.
And they absolutely are getting done by more than one person typically. We always hear about the big names and they're doing it all alone, but ultimately most of these deals are being done otherwise.
Yeah, and they're the figurehead, right? They ultimately have a team behind them too, right? It's definitely not the Ben and Ferris show here. We've got a whole team that helps us. Even on a day-to-day basis, right? To grow a business, you have to have the right.
This is where Shanna does the clapping soundtrack.
Talk about you, Shanna Spree.
All right, let's see. So Ronnie says, humble, hungry, and smart is the characteristics I look for in a team member or partner. Absolutely, right? And integrity. It's kind of another one to add to that.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Ronnie says, you already know I'm going to wear plaid if I see you. So it's going to be the plaid show.
Oh man, we're gonna like 3 amigos here.
All right, so let's see. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and leave them. We'll go answer them. Otherwise, you want to keep going, Ben?
I can't. I'm our controller.
Oh, well, we do have a cheat sheet, disruptequity.com/MF cheat sheet, right? To get a cheat sheet about kind of multifamily and investing. So definitely give that a check out.
And Shannon, can you go to the next slide real quick? Might have been stalled out, but
yeah, and I tell Ben not to touch the clicker, and he touches the clicker, and it freezes, right?
I know. What can I do?
He doesn't have the magic touch that I have.
It's a Monday.
Let's see. Noor says, "Do you and Ben plan to be matching?" We absolutely do. You're talking about today. Today we are matching. I don't know why Ben.
When I was looking at the screen earlier before we started, folks, I was like, "Oh, we're both wearing blue, man."
No, well, Ben texted me this morning when he first woke up. He's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about wearing blue."
That did not happen.
No, we did not do that.
It just kind of sometimes works out like that, and then you don't realize it until you're looking at yourself on the screen. You're like, oh my gosh.
It's a lot more noticeable on the screen.
Yeah.
But we like blue here on Disrupt Equity. So if you guys can't tell, the blues, we like all the
We'll
shades
get some
of blue.
grays too, But yeah, no, I think, what else should we cover here on this?
Yeah, so I mean, guys, if you're looking for referrals or recommendations, let us know.
That's
right,
important.
It is a team sport. We know all the vendors, and we use certain vendors, but it's not to mean that there's not other vendors too.
And it doesn't mean that there's not other
we
good
can give
vendors
you,
too.
yeah, exactly. So there's some other vendors that we would have used had we not already had a relationship with some of ours. So definitely reach out to us. We're happy to share the vendors that we use. Kind of give you the good, the bad, the ugly on each of them too. I mean, we'll be candid guys about it. So yeah.
All right. So this was a question that had come in ahead of time, right? Tips for meeting and building relationships with the commercial real estate brokers. Everybody always wants to know this one, right?
Yeah,
so you're pretty good at this. So
I'd say, just be candid, get to know these people, right? Know their kids, what are they doing, what's their weekend like, what are they going on vacation? You got to build it as friendship is the first step, right? Then, the other thing too is give value to them. That's the other thing that I think not a lot of people do that I definitely make sure I do. I share
intelligence.
Intelligence with them about what's happening, what I'm seeing. We talk about things. A good example is just the other day I was talking to the broker about kind of how another deal, the whisper was so low when it came in $5 million higher.
Yep.
Right? Well, talking about the dynamics of, as a broker, is it better to price your deal too low or too high? Right? And the pros and cons of that. And so be a friend first and foremost. And then from that, give them feedback, give them advice, try to add value to them, right? And that naturally, you'll be the guy that they think of whenever something is kind of blowing up, right? Because I always call them like, what do you have blowing up? Oh, okay, that's not blowing up. No, I don't want that deal. What else do you have? But there's literally an example today. There was a deal that by end of day, I told Ben this, we'll know if it's going to blow up or not. And if so, we have the chance to swoop in.
Yep.
What we want, so we'll see.
No, and they're a valuable team member, folks, right? Yes, we always talk about the buy side, but ultimately, right, if you do the right thing, you're going to have them on the sales side too to sell that same exact asset in 3 to 5 years. So they will help you position the asset, right? What updates you should do prior to sale, how you should position things, right? So they're a valuable part of your team. But it was funny, I was having dinner, last week, and somebody was kind of talking about just, some struggles, just kind of getting some traction with the brokers, right? And trying to build that rapport, but she was looking at it more on a, I'm just going to, kind of ask for some information and then I'm going to hang up real quick, right? It was almost this timid thing. And I just said, these are regular people, right? Yeah, they're selling, but don't put them up on a pedestal, right? They have kids, they've got challenges. They're out trying to make a living for their family too, right? Come at it with the mindset that you are trying to build a legitimate business relationship and a friendship with these people, right? And the other thing that we've kind of had, so, you can get in with some of the more seasoned folks, but we found it a little bit easier for maybe, kind of getting in with some of the up and coming folks, right? The guys and the gals that might be in their 20s or 30s that are trying to make a name for themselves in the business, right?
Yep.
Because we're in the same boat, right? Let's all grow together for the next 20 or 30 years in our career, right? Versus trying to get in with the guy that's been in for 30 or 40 years, right? He's already got his established relationship, so he's less likely to, throw you a bone and all that stuff, right? So just some tips on that. That's a good question. It's important to know.
Absolutely.
So what do we got next week, man?
With that said, we're at the top of the hour. So what are we talking about next week? Exclusions to look out with insurance agents, right? So we are going to have Dan probably in here or Rock, someone from that team, come in and talk about insurance. And these are actually like things that we're still learning. I mean, it's stuff that it's just like a loan. You kind of say yes, yes, yes until you realize all of the ramifications of everything you agreed to after, right? It comes to bite you
It's
later.
so huge,
and
right?
so knowing up front, so kind of, we've been learning a lot from Dan and, have him kind of talk through that. So if you want to know what to look for in an insurance quote or policy, definitely look forward to that one.
Yeah, what's included, what's going to be excluded, how the whole thing works, right? Just kind of open up the kimono and just kind of learn a little bit more about insurance, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we got a cheat sheet here. If anybody wants to kind of, take a look at that, disruptequity.com/MF cheat sheet. So go and check that out for anybody that's kind of new to following us. We come out with these various checklists and cheat sheets and stuff like that, folks, because we want to add value, right? It's all free. I'm not asking you to buy anything, but we're hoping that we can get people off of the right foot in this business.
Yeah.
So.
But we are at the top of the hour, so if anyone has any questions, go ahead and drop them in. We can answer them really quickly. Otherwise, we're going to give it a wrap. Going once.
Going twice.
Twice.
Well, let's give it one more second.
Let's call it a wrap then.
We're going to call it. Oh,
that's it.
that's it. All right, folks. We will see you next week
Thank you
talking
all.
about insurance.
Take care.